So it's cloudy again. I can't see the moon. Actually, I think last time I was here, I'm in the parking lot of my high school yet again for reasons mysterious and unexplainable. So right now it's 2:07 a.m. August 3rd, or if you will, the night of August 2nd. And so I think where I thought the moon was, last time I was here, I think I was wrong, because I think that's where the moon is now. But last time I was here, it was 2 hours earlier, meaning the moon wouldn't have been in the same place. The reason I think the moon is there now is there are clouds. I don't think they're gonna very accurately, I don't know if the lights are playing into it, but there's some clouds that I can tell the shape of the cloud. I can tell it's sort of a thinner variety of cloud. They thin out right above there, and that's sort of how high up that is. And those are so those appear fairly illuminated. Contrast over here. So over here we have, you can see against the trees over there, it just appears all black. So I'm pretty sure the moon is there, and I think something that's interesting here is actually, here's another way I can tell the how thin the clouds are. Is I can see a star, not through them obviously, but sort of in. I mean, it looks like through them, but obviously, I don't know if that really makes sense, because I can see it fairly clearly. It's not like it's just creating light that illuminates the clouds, like the moon does. Bringing us back to our lunar friend, the moon. Clearly, it's having probably a larger effect on the night sky now than, even if it was actually out. Reason for this being is that it's illuminating so many clouds, or at least I think because the clouds are thinner, it illuminates them to a larger degree or something like that. So currently what's occurring is just the clouds appear whitish, as opposed to I think actually I can tell that on the other side of the sky there are clouds, but they're very, very hard to see. I'm not even one of the reasons I think so is I sort of see stars up to a point, and then it just appears very flat. And it appears that the clouds sort of go up to the sky to a certain point, all the way around. But so the moon right now, obviously not appearing, but it's still having a large effect by way of sort of the coloration. It has this glow that's emanating through the clouds, this whitish sort of, I think that glow almost, it's like the word glow is just created for the moon. I mean, nothing glows like the moon. Nothing glows like the moon does. It obviously we know that the light source of the moon is just the sun. But it still remains that the moon appears to be, just lit on its own. It just appears white, and the light that it's creating right now is making these clouds this sort of gray, bluish sort of, it's making it look like they're glowing. I think one sort of important factor of the light that the moon casts is just how unobtrusive it is. So it's, it's almost like it's creating enough light for us to be able to see it, but it's not creating enough light for us to be able to sort of, I don't know, for it to, I'm having trouble sort of describing the way it is. I mean, obviously you guys all have seen the moon and whatnot, but it's just this glowing, I think, is very interesting. So I guess that's one important thing about the moon, is that it's almost like, I think, no matter how I think there's a motorcycle very loudly. I think I actually saw the same exact motorcycle. It looks like it's going extremely fast. But so this sort of glowing, I mean, I think one weird thing about this glowing is that I guess if we see the moon, right? So the moon is casting light onto us. Obviously, it's night here. I mean, obviously, it doesn't have to be that dark. You can still see the moon. It's not that light. But something that's weird is that I don't really know this for a fact, but I think that means it has to be the moon's equivalent of like day. So I think if the light is reflecting to us, that means the moon is lit up, meaning it's day on the moon. I mean, I know I've seen pictures like obviously taken from the surface of the moon. So I know that there the day is like not quite distinct, like the sky is still black. Obviously, it's not that illuminated, but it still seems like you can see, and I'm sure they have some equivalent to night, sort of where you just can't see, and it's totally, I mean, the sun obviously rises and sets on the moon as well. So this glow seems to us internal to the moon, right? It seems like the moon is its own light source because it has this glowing character where it emanates this luminosity. But then it turns out that luminosity is still just the sun, and the only reason it even appears that way is just because the moon is white. But obviously we know the moon isn't actually white, it's that grayish color, but the luminosity is still so radiant so as to make it appear just this brilliant whiteness that sort of just spreads throughout the sky and has this effect where I guess anything that comes into contact with it in the sense that it, you know, goes over it or it even gets near it in terms of how close it is to it, or, you know, if it's over it in regarding, I guess, their position in the sky considered as sort of its own area or its own field or something like that, it affects it very strongly. So right now, like I said, I can't even see the moon, and yet the clouds are appearing very, very illuminated in this sort of gray, this very strange gray, whitish, glowing sort of color or effect. And I think that glowing, you know, it's I think the light source, or this glowing character of the moon as a light source, is very interesting because I think it has a very mysterious character, at least as mysterious as a light source can be. Obviously, I mean, we usually don't think of light sources as mysterious, but I guess that's what it is. Just because I don't know, it's hard to think that, because, I mean, obviously we could imagine it. Say there's a mirror or something. We can imagine a mirror reflecting, in the intuitive sense, light off of it and you know, casting a lot of light. Roughly the same amount that's being shined onto the mirror. But with the moon, it's really just a giant object, and the sunlight happens to be sort of on it, you know, it's being illuminated. It's almost like thinking, you know, I'm a physical object. If I was in space, I mean, obviously I'm too small to see from here if I was in space, but it's just the same idea, but on a big scale. So that seems weird. It doesn't seem intuitively. I mean, obviously we know that it can do this just because, like, we see it, but it doesn't it's hard to get an intuitive grasp on sort of how or why or what, you know, is going on in terms of the moon's light source conceived as such. And that's why I think the moon just, it seems like its own light source. It's like, you know, the light seems like it's coming from the moon, even though the moon isn't actually a source of light. And then combined with sort of the specific character of the light, this sort of unobtrusive, glowing, and barely, you know, one thing about it is sort of when, I mean, you know, the effect when there's sort of clouds around the sun, you can actually see the rays of the sun. Imagine if you could do that with the moon, you know, it's just, it's almost unthinkable what that would even look like, so that it almost takes away from the materiality or the physicality of the moon's presence, because it's almost like we can't see the light of the moon itself. We can just see the moon. We can see, you know, what it touches, what it's around, and all that. It's almost like it just maybe like appears, and it's hard to connect the why it appears with what we are actually able to see. So, given our knowledge that it's just reflecting off of the sun, or the sun's light is being reflected off of the surface of the moon, it's hard to sort of reconcile that with the way the moon actually looks. I guess because of the specific character of the moon's light that we get contacted with. I know actually one of my favorite musicians, the bossa nova organist Walter Vanderlei, he has this album. It's not very good. It's probably one of his worst albums. It's like later, I think. He didn't release a lot of albums. It's, I think, mostly singles, but he has a few. And the album's called Moonbeams. And actually, when I was thinking about the light of the moon, I was thinking about that. It doesn't seem like there's such a thing as a moonbeam. I mean, what is that? I can't even imagine. That's sort of what I was saying earlier with the clouds and being able to actually see the light of the moon. Like, you can see the rays of the sun coming out from behind a cloud. I just can't... It's hard to think of the moon as having sort of beams of light coming from it, you know. It seems like it's just there, and it happens to be the case that we can see it without it actually casting light or anything like that.